Hello, my name is Caden, and today we're going to replace the CV axle or half shaft on my driver's front on my 1990 Oldsmobile 98 Regency Rome. It's a little battered and beaten, but it's still a good car. So we have our new one sitting here from Rock Auto, and the reason we're replacing it is because it started making noise and clicking under acceleration on turns, and that would also be why, because this boot has been ripped for so long, all the grease has come out, and now the joint's just finally starting to make noise. So we're gonna go ahead and get on removing that. So to start, we'll take our 19 millimeter, we'll go ahead and take our wheel off here. Alright, so next we have to remove this nut. There's a couple ways to go about that. I'm going to try it with the impact here and see if it'll just do it. And what do you know? Just like that. This heart, I bought it at Walmart. It's actually not doing too bad. It's not terrible. So got our axle nut out. There's a little washer here that can just I guess stay there unless you can get it out right now, but that can stay there. So next we're gonna get a hammer and tap this free out of our hub. Now I'm not too concerned about damaging it as it's getting replaced. Alright, so it's popped free. It's not going to go back anymore. So what we'll do, we'll remove the little cotter pin and remove that castle nut, and we will pop this tie rod end out so we can swing this knuckle outward. Alright, we got a little progress. That cotter pin was the hardest part to get out. I actually broke my pick tool, which will probably happen getting it out. The other one will break in pieces, which is fine because we'll have new ones side. So now all I did was I sat here smacking this a bit, but then I spun that castle nut back on upside down and I smacked the bottom of it, not too hard but enough to now we're popped up, and I can take this nut back off and remove the tie rod end from the knuckle. Get that guy out of there. And we can lift this guy up and out. I really would like to replace these at some point because they are getting real nasty, but money is just it's a little tight. So now that we got that, we can move our knuckle pretty freely. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to push this out more. I'll swing this out and we'll see if it's enough to get this axle out. Alright, so I fought with it for a little bit. Looks like there's going to be more than that we're going to have to remove. So fortunately we are going to have to undo our strut from our knuckle here because it just doesn't swing to the side enough, and this shaft is so long on the end that you won't push it through enough. And even if you popped out the other side, you'd have to compress that so much that it's just not even worth it. So what we'll do is we'll take the nuts off and have to pop these out. Now the best thing we can do to keep our camber intact, which I need an alignment regardless, is to at least to just draw like a circle, something, or mark it in some sort of way on this side here to determine about the position of roughly where those go back in place. So I'll go ahead and remove those. I believe those were 24 millimeter. The axle nut was a 36. These are 19. That was an 18. This should be a 24. And then we'll have to remove the little brake hose bracket. That's a little 10 millimeter right there. And then I guess we'll swing this whole thing down, and then we'll get to another hard part. So it does help to have a backup wrench at times. So something like that. It works better if you actually hold on to the thing. Alright, so we've got the nuts removed, but You'll notice one of these will be very difficult to get out. Now don't just go beating on the end of it with a hammer, because you will ruin this end and you will have to get a new bolt. So use one of these instead to actually punch on the end. Now you could do the nut on the end of it, but after enough times of hitting it, you will soften that metal, you will heat it up, and you will end up welding the two together. Ask me how I know. So what we'll do is we'll just tap a punch on the end of this. Alright, so I have sprayed it with some penetrating oil. What I also did was I took my impact and I spun this bolt around a bunch of times. I shocked it so you get some of that penetrating oil up in there, and it did break my knuckle free from my strut. So now that it moves, so now see how it wants to come out, but that puts more tension on that, so we need to push it all the way up, and then you should be able to tap it out a lot easier. Now remember, don't just go and beat the shit out of the end of this. You don't want to damage the end of those threads, otherwise you're taking a trip to the hardware store. So I'm just gonna push up on it like that, and then I will punch this bolt the rest of the way out. And this knuckle is going to want to fall forward, and that is okay. Just watch the stretch of your brake hose would be the only thing I would be concerned about. Other than that, it'll fall forward and it'll be okay. Just hanging out once we do get this out. Alright, so after enough beating and hammering and penetrating fluid, I'll get it all wire brushed down, cleaned up. We had enough room to pull this whole knuckle out and push the axle out of the hub. So I have it here, and now we're ready to pry it out of the transmission. Now, being the short side, we are going to want a transmission, or just a drain pan, at least the best we can. I've put my jack stand in, of course, the best spot possible for that, right below it, because there will be fluid that comes out. Brake hose is a little stressed here. I might get a bungee cord to help hold this up a little bit, and we'll get a big pry bar, maybe even bigger than that one. We'll go pry that axle out. So what I'm going to try to do is try to get it right in here. I have a little room to push back on, so I'm going to try to give it a good jolt. And oh, it popped out already. What do you know? You'll feel it when it does. I'll have to pry it out a little more the rest of the way, but oh yeah, that definitely popped out. Alright, so we got our old and new parts, and right away you'll see some differences. Now, as long as the overall length is the same, that's what matters. The same number of splines. We even get a new axle nut and washer. Now, this one does come with a tone ring for ABS. If your car does not have ABS, that is fine, as long as it does not interfere installation itself, like as in if this tone ring was rubbing against the knuckle or something trying to install it, then you would want to punch this off. You'd have to chisel it off, which would unfortunately would be a pain, but this was about what I could find for these years, because a lot of ones for non-ABS are bought up relatively quickly. So and then the rubber, this one didn't have one, it looks like. So yeah, because that just pops off. So we'll leave that on. That'll help seal some dirt out. So we'll just go ahead and shove it in there, and you'll feel it click, and then you'll do the pull test, and it shouldn't just pull out by hand. But yeah, just shove it on in there, and the install will be the reverse of removal. We're going to go ahead and clean up most of these surfaces before I reinstall some of the existing hardware. Alright, so I've done a few things. I have we put the axle in and got it put through the hub, and have our new nut and new washer on. With it cranked down, I'll give it an extra ugga-dugga here in a little bit, because my battery's getting a little weak on the impact. Got the new not new, I wish it was kind of new, maybe one day, but tie rod end back in, tightened down with the new cotter pin installed. So now What's left is to get the knuckle back into the strut lined up. So what I'll do is I use a punch here, because you're gonna have to use this for leverage to move this up and down to line these holes up. It's a little hard to do with one hand, but get the idea, and install it the same way that it came out. So you've got the bolt that'll go through this way, and then the washer, and then the nut, and we'll get those tightened down, and then we'll pretty much be done. And I'll reattach this bracket. Of course, I'm leaving it loose for now because we're gonna be moving this around, and it's just, yeah, we'll wait till later. Once you get it aligned with your punch or whatever you're using to put in the hole to move it up and down, once you push up on this disc, it makes it real easy to punch these bolts back in. Alright, so we have got our wheel put back on, and that is a done job. So we'll lower it to the ground. This was the Rock Auto sticker I got this time. I really like this one. This is one of the better ones that I've gotten. Can't go wrong. Now all that's left to do is to take it for a road test, make sure your clicking's gone. So everything looks good for me. I'm going to go on my drive. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope this helps. This is a little bit more of a difficult job, but with patience, persistence, and good variety of tools, that you can do it yourself. So, but anyway, thank you for watching. See you next video.